75 to 95% of the people in this room could take the job title of director of overthinking. Maybe not, maybe even higher. And it's a combination of, if you have education, you've been burned, lack of self-esteem, lack of self-confidence, not really serious, want to engage in self-sabotage. You bundle all those together and you become the director of overthinking and or the director of inaction who reports up to the VP of status quo. And nothing ever fucking changes. And nothing ever changes. And I'd say at least 75 to 90% of the acquisitions I've made in my life, which are a lot, or attempted to make, because I attempted to make many more than I've made, that's what the organizational chart looks like. And we all laugh about it and think it's funny. Yes, sir.
How do you overcome overthinking? By just taking action?
Yeah. Well, what I do is, we buy that company and I fire those two people, the director of inaction, the director of overthinking, which means I got to fire the VP of status quo, which is normally your brother-in-law or cousin or somebody, or in-law. Your brother-in-law is the brother of your wife, right? Brother-in-law, is that one? Okay. Or brother-in-law. And family businesses are fucked by definition. They just are. Because of that, nepotism and whatever you want to call it. But that's it. Come on in.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so YouTubers, I want you to take note, and I'm sure I want some comments about this, and I want you to tell me how you don't run your pieces of shit like this. I want you to tell me why your little chicken shit organizations are not broken down like this.
If they even have organizations.
Well, some of them do, but you're the chief indecision officer. You're not the chief executive officer. Okay, let's go on. Let's move on. Now, we've gone through this, and this is the process. 600 hours, 1,000 qualified individuals. This is Dr. Joe's. 300 professionals, 7 strong core professionals. And this is how the source. Now, an email is coming up. Not an email, excuse me. A slide's coming up how you use LinkedIn. But it's lengthy, so I'm not, if it is the next slide, we'll show it after we get off YouTube because it takes too much time up. Well, fuck, it is. Okay, so, okay. I know these slides, but a master's from Hoboken University put together a thing, like, it was important to me that I know. It's important for you to know how the fucking LinkedIn works, not me. But I decided to make a slide and show it to everybody, okay? It's about 90% accurate. Okay, it's up to you to figure out what 10% isn't accurate. But it's a mechanical engineer, some shit that thinks that, and I thank him for it. You know who you are. Canadian, Muslim. What else is wrong with him? Let me think. Something else is wrong. Yeah. Canadian's much worse than being Muslim. Believe me. You can get over. Believe me. Canadian engineer Muslim is pretty fucking, there's a lot of negatives there, but Muslim we can fix, but the fucking engineer we can fix most of the time, but Canadian is a motherfucker. Canadian's a motherfucker, okay? Look for 3 things in a person of intelligence, energy, and integrity, and if they don't have the last one, forget the rest. When you're going through the board, guys, as Dennis said, I mean, you in the beginning, because you're new at it, will put up with more of their indecision than you should. Now he sounds like a fucking expert, right? Dennis, not this guy. I mean, well, Warren is an expert. And so now, Dennis, I just, next. Well, in the beginning, and I hope you're listening to this, Dennis, the first 6 or 8 weeks, I mean, he wasn't sure he was going to get another one on the hook. So if you don't know you're going to get one on the hook, well, okay, you listen to the bullshit, and you listen to the indecision, and you listen to them questioning, et cetera, et cetera. But once you realize it's a numbers game and you can go through the numbers, you'll put up with less and less indecision, and you'll make the decisions quicker, and you'll just pull the trigger. And he's another guy that showed that you don't have to sit down and meet with all of them, although he's met with a couple of them. And whereas some of the kids, as I've told you, don't meet with any of them. And that's the luxury of the 21st century, internet, Skype, Zoom, all that stuff. It's amazing that, that as opposed to getting on planes and shoe leather and in the old days, as I did it and the kids did it in the 90s. Okay. My proceeds from PayPal, this is Mr. Musk, my proceeds from PayPal acquisition were $180 million. I put $100 million in SpaceX, $70 million in Tesla, and $10 million in Solar City. I had to borrow money for my rent. Now, I can relate to that. I've been there. We had a debenture offering many years ago that was 82 million pounds. I couldn't sell it to anybody. So I took it. And did I have the 82 million pounds at the time? No. I had 3 weeks. Settlement used to be 3 weeks in the city. I don't know what it is now. So you had 3 weeks to pay for it. To say I was a scrambled motherfucker. And 82 million pounds you don't just pick up at the fucking newsstand. That was about 140 million bucks. Or as they say in New York, 140 large ones. 140 large ones. But by the grace of Allah, 3 days before settlement, 3 fucking days, a Middle Eastern investor, it was Allah, bailed me out. So when I say praise Allah, I ain't bullshitting. People ask me, what would you have done if you had to come up with 140 million? I would have been fucked. That's what I would have been. But, so, I'm not just poking fun. And when it happened, they called me up and says, Dan, we got good news. And I said, well, what is it? Somebody took the trade, the flip. And they say, the people that were in the room, that I turned white. I don't turn white that often. And they say I wobbled a little. And I wasn't even worried if I lost money on the trade. I just said, fuck. I can come up with 10 million, 15 million. And then I said, and he says, the bad news is you only made 3,000 pounds. The bad news. So I made 3,000 pounds on an 82 million pound flip. I was so happy I didn't know whether to shit or go blind. We went out to dinner, Charlie, Mark, and I, and because I had 2 partners, they should have gotten 10% of that. And Charlie and Mark says, no, you can keep the $3,000, Dan. We don't need the 300. And so we went out and we spent $3,000 on dinner that night in London, in the city. Well, I was so fucking happy. I mean, I was willing to take loss. $3,000. Oh, God. Middle East. Ooh. Boy, was I happy. And I don't normally get wrought with joy where you can see it, but that day I was fucking happy as anything. Because I'd already planned, what am I going to do this? What am I going to do this? The shareholders, and I had to go through all this litany of horse shit. We have to have an announcement, this and that. Dan reneged on the deal, blah, 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 blah. Press release. Oh, God, the shareholders, I was going to be dead meat. But I did it because I couldn't sell the deal. And it just so happened that this Middle Eastern group decided, yeah, we like it. It just took us a little longer to make an investment decision. Okay, well, they did the right thing, especially by Dan Peña and the shareholders. So he couldn't pay the rent. Let's see, probably these are, okay. Now, these are the kind of guys you want your dream team to be. Now, unfortunately, most of them are dead. But Jack Welch is alive, Bill Gates is, Winston Churchill, Carl Gusen, Jesus Christ, Napoleon Bonaparte, Henry Ford, Michael Dell, Steve Jobs, and Tom Edison. Okay. But most of the guys of that ilk will have so many conflicts they can't be on your board. The live ones, the ones that are alive. But most of the guys that are alive will get back to you. Their assistant will say, thank you for the offer, but Mr. Goosen is got conflicts. He's too busy. He's not taking on any more board positions. It's the little pricks that don't get back to you. It's the little shitbags that, that feel that they're so important they can't give you the common courtesy to respond. But the big guys, for the most part, there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, they're very cordial. They're very polite. They're very professional. I mean, Lord Sugar, Jack Welch, even Bill Gates, Boone Pickens, those guys, they're very professional, extremely professional. And to the extent that you have an opportunity to interface with any of these guys, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it because you can't but learn something by having exposure to that kind of person. That kind of person, and I'm very thankful for my experience with the Kuwaiti Investment Office those years ago. I mean, very professional, all the guys at the KIO, and they were very fortunate that they were supportive of me. Praise Allah. So I don't say praise Allah making fun. I say praise Allah because I'm still thankful. I'm still thankful. And so I'm not making fun of Muslims or Allah, believe me. Any questions? Now, it's funny that, now some of these guys, I don't even know who the Olsen twins are, or I don't know who some of these are. But teenagers, these are the most admired. This is a couple years old, the most admired people. Steve Jobs is still listed as one of the most admired. And because he was a visionary. I mean, he was, he was a guy that easily you could pattern your thought process after because he was ahead of his time, no question about that. No, some people think Elon is. In some ways, he is. Zuckerberg with Facebook was certainly ahead of his time. But these guys are going to be conflicted out, because they're so busy now. Let's see, go 13. Now, see, Mother Teresa is not likely. She's just in the process of being made a saint. But if you could have got a hold of her early on, and I tell the story, many years ago, she was being gifted 13 buses by one of the biggest bus companies in the world. And she's at the ceremony, and the chairman and the president of the big bus company are saying that how they're proud and happy to give these buses. And then 13 buses, and Mother Teresa yanks on the coat of the CEO. She whispers in his ear, who then whispers in the chairman's ear. The chairman looks down and whispers back in the CEO's ear, so this is Mother Teresa's ear, and Mother Teresa said, no, there must be a mistake. It's 30 buses. Legend has it she stuck them up for 17 extra buses at the ceremony. Mother Teresa was a tough lady. Okay? 17 buses, and so what are they going to tell her? No in front of the fucking CNN, ABC? Oh, that's right. I must have interpolated the numbers. We're happy to give Mother Teresa and her 30 buses. And to the orphanages we support are Mother Teresa's in the Philippines. But all these guys and gals are tough. They're tough. You can't build these organizations, and whether it's non-profit or for-profit, without being tough. And she certainly wasn't an alpha male. I mean, she was at that end of the continuum, but she made some decisions based, would make an alpha male proud. Would make an alpha male proud. Who's at my 5 o'clock? Wait a minute. Who's my 6 o'clock? Who's my 7 o'clock? I thought the 5 and 7. Anyway, we'll figure it out later. Okay. So YouTube, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow.